Sure. Okay.
So I would just like to add here, so why I don't consider it as a disruptor. See, it's not e-com versus brick and mortar today, or it's not omni-channel versus the brick and mortar today. It's discount versus non-discount.
Right.
You start, so if you stand in a corner, a remote corner, and start distributing money, I'm sure there will be long queues after that. You stop distributing that money, everybody will disappear. Currently, why e-commerce is surviving, it's not a sustainable model, and that's why it's not a disruptor. It's an addition to what you can do. You can provide convenience to the customer. You can provide comfort for them to buy from the comfort of their own space and at their own time. But it's not a disruptor. As we speak today, there is no loyalty. It's completely discount versus non-discount which is playing. If you start offering discount even in your offline store, there will be queues outside.
Okay. So in a different way, you agreed there is a division between offline and online.
Why do it?
Right. Discount, right.
But why are they getting so much of money to burn on discounts? Have the investors gone berserk? Why are they getting? If there's no business case for them, why are they getting so much of money to burn on discount?
Right. Yeah. Sudhanshu can tell definitely.
So I mean, it's up to the investors to actually answer why are they pouring in so much money in technology companies if there is no business model, right? I mean, what I can say is that in India especially we have a habit of looking to the West and seeing what is working over there. Is it going to work here or not, right? We many times don't look at what is happening in China, what has happened in China, right? The largest e-commerce company in the world is Alibaba, right? It owns zero inventory. It is a marketplace, right? We all talk about many times why, how India is moving like how China evolved earlier, right? So there is an advent of smartphones. Smartphones and connectivity through smartphones has already overtaken internet, right? I mean, already known fact. There is a lot of consumer preference on commerce via smartphones, right? I mean, I'm not here to talk about what Paytm does and what the wallet is, but the transactions that happen on Paytm through the wallet already surpass many transactions that happen offline via credit cards. Anyways, all that aside, right? The business model is simple, right? That so a technology platform is similar to a mall. It offers an infrastructure for commerce, correct? You have a mall, it offers you parking, it offers you clean services, right? Lighting, air conditioning, so on and so forth, right? But in the end, there are retailers who are based over there who are selling. Right. Similarly, a technology platform does the same, right? It offers the advantage of discovery, for example. So many users will never be able to reach a mall who are able to browse through a brand's catalog through their app, right? It solves the problem of payments, right? So many users, and Flipkart obviously solved this earlier, right? That people were uncomfortable or they did not even have a credit card or a debit card, right? So they offered cash on delivery, correct? And then the problem that they solved was of trust. Obviously, he spoke about
return policy, right?
The return policies, correct? Now, the thing is that all these are leaps that e-commerce players have had to take in order to onboard users onto e-commerce, right? But now the thing is that now if you realize you don't really get a hassle-free 30-day, no questions asked return policy everywhere.
Right, and
right?
I have a question for Rajat. Is it changing the way Indians shop? Is it changing buying habits of Indians, Rajat?
I think clearly for various categories, the buying habits will change. Some categories you need to experiment, touch, feel, touch the product. And even in places like apparel and all, once you get your size right, can you order online? Yes, you can.
Right.
So I think, yeah, the buying habits will change. My only pushback is that unlike China, when China opened up, the retail footprint was almost non-existent. China was a communist country. It did encourage people to have entrepreneurs. India has been a country of shopkeepers. We have 12 to 15, 18 million stores. We've always had product available next to us. Not the best service, not the best assortment. Product availability was always there. So I think, yes, we will probably get there, but it'll probably be a slower burn because China the demand was there. People started becoming very affluent, but the access to stores was very low. My team is doing a little research on this in terms of what retail footprint existed before. But my sense is that it was nothing close to what India had. So I think that's helped the gap in there. But clearly it's here to stay. But whether every category will be bought through online, debatable. I think down the line, some categories will. And many online guys are opening offline as well today to create the experience. The furniture guys are doing it. People like Lenskart are doing it. They've also created offline stores to create the experience, the touch and feel. So I think it'll go back and forth. I mean, where this thing ends, in 10 years when we're all sitting here and talking about it, we figured it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, my sense is, it's evolving. And it definitely is changing consumer behavior in many ways. And Paytm is a great example of that with the wallet and all.
Right. And you mentioned about how electronics and fashion is catching up on e-commerce. First, it was books and then electronics. Now, fashion category is under attack from e-commerce companies. I would like to ask Venu, since Rajesh said it's between discounts and non-discounts, online companies tend to give heavy discounts, and you sell on online platforms. You just signed a deal with Myntra. So how do you maintain that, you have a special agreement with the company so that the brand is not diluted by heavy discounting? How do you manage this? Now it's between offline and online, sort of.
For Marks and Spencer, our stated mission is to be a global multi-channel retailer.
Right.
So I think just adding on to some of the conversations we've just had, effectively we are talking of two channels really. So brick and mortar is a channel and online is another channel. Right. What we need to remember, all of these conversations, we are trying to serve the customer, and the customer is trying to buy a brand. So on the one end you've got a brand, at the other end you've got the customer, and all of these things are doing is to get one to the other. Then it becomes a question of how easy is it for the customer to get the brand. And what's most important in all of this is for the retailer, who's effectively the custodian of the brand, whether they do it through online or whether they do it through the brick and mortar stores, is to maintain the integrity of the brand.
How do you do it?
And what's important is to make sure that the customer is getting the same experience irrespective of the channel that they're using. Right. And that's what every retailer will try to do. So for us, what's important, whether customer goes into our store or whether they go into a Myntra, they're able to see the most latest catalog in terms of season, because we work on seasons and we have a seasonal catalog that's there. Right. So it's important that they're getting the latest catalog on. They're able to buy that. It's important then to be, now each channel will use different ways to get the customer. And that's where I think the differentiation comes in terms of what we are discussing here. So a brick and mortar store has the advantage of being able to display the store by lifestyle or by product category or the way they want to show it, to be able to give the customer a better experience, a better choice, and help them to buy. So in our case, we coordinate our ranges so that you can effectively buy an outfit together. And that's something which you can do very, very effectively in store. We now, as a retailer, and we are a retailer for the entire family, we sell for right from men, we do for women's, men's, kids, we've got lingerie, we've got beauty. And in this case, we can segment the store, and not only segment the store, but you can also lay out the store by lifestyle, because we also do within women's wear, we would have a formal range, a smart formal, a smart casual, and a casual. And by using visual merchandising, by using the store environment, you're able to segment that out. So that's a tool that's available for the brick and mortar retailers. On the flip side, for an online retailer, they've obviously got the capability to offer a much wider variety, but it may not necessarily be cataloged the same way.
Right.
So I think effectively each channel will use the best means to try and offer the customer an advantage. And I think there are advantages for both. In our home market in the UK, online, we operate, we have a true omni-channel business. We do click and collect. Customers can buy online and collect from our stores. They can also get it delivered to their store. And it's a big, big part of our business. And it's grown over the last 8 to 10 years. And what I can say, what we have found is that by offering omni-channel or multi-channel, as you would call it, we are able to get the customer to be engaged a lot more with you. What we also find is that a customer who's using both channels ends up buying more than what a customer would do if they're using
what are you
one
doing?
of the two.
If you could just give some specific examples, like, for example, your own UK brand Burberry. When the customers were becoming younger, they were more interactive. They were like, they would shop online. They changed the way their stores looked. Their stores, they made the stores more interactive. There were tablets everywhere. There were like, digital walls, magic mirrors, and all those. And customers would have seamless experience.
Which is
so.
a-
You have a Concept 11 store concept, right? So if you could just, a lot of companies are bringing the technology into the store. What are you doing?
So if I take what we are doing in the UK, and the click and collect's something that we do, and we've taken that to new levels now. So we've got in the UK, we've got effectively giant iPads in store where a customer can go in.
You
They
have
can-
something that in India as well, no?
We haven't got that in India yet,
Okay.
but that's something which I think is a matter of time before that would come in.
Right.
And you can already, Shopper Stop has started something where you've got the virtual mirror, and I think there's loads of new technology that's coming in. What we do have today is that we are now we are present on Myntra and effectively the catalog, and it's a more curated catalog.
Right.
It's not the entire catalog as of today, but a curated catalog is available on Myntra, and customers can buy it at the same price as they would buy it in store.
Okay.
Now, talking of technology and some of the things that is driving in one of our stores in Holland, what we have done is we've got a small store. It's about, I think, 5,000 square feet store, but then we've got an entire catalog displayed, but we don't have every size. We just have one of each, and then you can browse on the tablet, and it's a giant tablet effectively, so that it's a big screen. You can see the style, and then you can feel the garment there, but get it delivered home.
Right.
So that way you're able to maximize the space that you have. So I think it's different technologies coming together as well that
Right.
helps and give the customer the best choice.
Right. I have a question for Yogesh. We had a prominent retail mall in Bombay, and he, on the panel, he admitted that footfalls have gone down because of he attributed it directly to e-commerce. I know, you also have you yourself has some plans for e-commerce. A mall getting into e-commerce. That's an interesting concept to begin with. And you are the first mall to appoint a CTO, Chief Technology Officer. First of all, if you could just tell us, throw some light on whether the footfalls have gone down, whether the customer spend has gone down. If you could just share that. And then after that, your own plans to...
Can I start?
Yeah, sure.
I thought I was contributing more by silence than speaking, but today my confidence in dependent origination has become more stronger, that we are all interconnected, because all my points have been stolen by Rajat, Wahi and Shaleen. So I don't know how they did that, but they have covered most of the points, but I'll still try to share my thoughts. As a mall, I work for a shopping center, Select City Walk, and not because I don't have a choice, because I love working for a shopping center, and I am 100% sure that shopping centers are going to stay for a very, very long time. And coming to the questions which Rasool asked, that footfalls have not gone down in our case, but we could be an exception. I say so because our mall has been...
But what do you hear from other malls generally?
Yeah, it has gone down in other malls. I have heard these facts. In our mall, these are static, they are not growing. And we would love to believe this, that it's because of the size of the building, the number of car parks, and that there's a access road. So there's a limitation to so many people can come to a shopping center on a particular day, in a Sunday. The parking gets choked and all that. So the numbers are indicative. Numbers have not gone down. They are not growing as they were growing earlier. Earlier we were growing at the pace of 12 to 14% per annum. Now it's 8 to 10%. So Could be because of e-commerce, or could be because the mall has reached a saturation that you can sell that much from that building. Coming to technology part, I feel there's a huge difference between the mindset of a brick and mortar person and an e-commerce, because the fundamentals are slightly different. In mall business, we want people to come to the mall. No? We want to get out of the house and come to the mall. On the other hand, e-commerce players are trying, please stay at home, we will come to your house. In mall, we don't have any logistics. No, we just open the doors.
So who is winning?
The verdict will come out. I'll come to that. My verdict will come out. Secondly, in terms of logistics, for example, and as a mall, we open the gates and all that, and there's no logistics. We have never interacted with the logistics guy. But in e-commerce, their backbone is logistics. Thirdly, the technology. Mall guys, the technology is the wall and the ceiling. I mean, that's all they have. Whereas in e-commerce, everything is based on, and they exactly know how many people are shopping, what are they shopping, what did they buy last time. And once you go on their website, they will chase you, till the time you delete your cookies. They will follow you. Right. On the other hand, I have never come across a mall developer who has a IT guy. At best, they have a printer working sometimes, but mostly they don't have anything. So when we realized this, that this is coming in a big way as a mall, and we started innovating that what can we do. And you'll be surprised, I have a lot of respect for Microsoft and big players, but they have not been able to solve our problems. Most of them have not been able to solve it. I just made a list here, sitting here, because I was not given an opportunity to speak. So,
No, now you can speak.
We'll get a chance.
Yeah.
So once they have given me mic, so now they have to. So basically, when we made a list of the items we have to use technology for, you'll be surprised. There are more than 30 items which we are struggling to settle down. For example, from loyalty program, from sales collection, we are a revenue share model, so every retailer's sales has to come to us. Believe me, from last 8 years, we have not been able to do that. Because there is not even one single company who can tie together 100 or 200 softwares running around in the, they are unable to do it. I don't know why, it's not that difficult. But out of 200 brands, we have been able to collect only 120 and that too sometimes server is down and all that. Secondly, the bay management system, the parking management system is a manual at the moment. You see bay empty and you can't serve. There's a footfall counter, it's not live. At the end of the day, you collate all the 28 entries, how many people came, but that's post-mortem. I want to know what is happening in the mall now, whether I should shut down the mall now, there are too many people, or is this event making an impact on the sales? So it has to be live. So footfall counting. Then the customer behavior. Whether Zara customer is also a Starbucks customer or prefers, the interconnections within the mall. I mean, there's so many things you can know. So as data mining, data is there. So as a mall, we know 35,000 people came. Who were they? Why did they come? What did they do in the mall? We don't know that. So technology is going forward. Technology is going to be very, very important. So we started looking for a CTO, for the first time. And we have not been able to hire.
Okay.
Because
so any good CVs can...
we have not been able to hire because somebody is very good at e-commerce. But mall doesn't want to go e-commerce. We want to be,
But the DNA should be brick and mortar, right?
Brick and mortar. For example, there's another side to it. A lot of e-commerce players are asking us space for a physical store.
Right.
So that conveys a lot.
Right.
Lenskart.com to any, and Amazon is having a brick and mortar store now. So these will coexist for sure. And I have respect for e-commerce because India consumption theory, which was in the offing for last 20 years, with thinking that to so many people they will eat, have clothes and all that, was not coming true. And now e-commerce has shown it that if you have a product at the relevant right price, discounted price, people will buy. So the sales are happening. So the consumption is there for sure. Now how to make it happen? There's no quality space. And in comparison with China, I think we are similar only in one way that the humans live there and we live there here. They are also human beings. But we can't compare. Trust me. Zara, Inditex example, Zara has opened 150, Inditex has opened 150 stores in China and still they are opening one in a month. India, after opening 16 stores of Zara, they don't know where to open the 17 stores. Jhajjar, Rohtak, Ghaziabad, don't know where.
What are the reasons?
Reasons are that the Indian market doesn't have, one Louis Vuitton store in the whole of North India. And look at the Hong Kong, on each street you'll have. So there is a consumption pattern. India is evolving. We have to be patient, I feel.
Right.
And slowly things will get there. But at the moment, and e-commerce is helping us get there for sure.
Right.
And there is no two consumer. You can ask yourself, your families, your wives, your husbands, or girlfriends, boyfriends. The same customer is buying online and same customer is a e-commerce, brick and mortar. It's not that the consumer which come to a mall are a different set of customers. Same customers are buying online. So when they are buying online, why not CityWalk can also come into their mind that, okay, why don't I check out CityWalk? So we are also trying that we should also be a hybrid model, and we are in a stronger position to be in a hybrid model because we have a physical presence. And physical presence makes a lot of difference. There's an identity, there's a personality of the space. In e-commerce, there is personality, but little virtual
Right.
personality.
You already have marketplace anyway.
Right.
Shall I stop?
You made an interesting point, saying that 35,000 people come to my mall, but I don't know what they're doing. And at the same
At Max, I know that they pass through this person
Right.
passed through ladies, so that's a lady.
So a similar observation was made by a distinguished panelist in Bombay. He said, I always took pride. I'm a hardcore brick and mortar retailer for my life, and I always took pride in the fact that I knew my customers. And he said the fact is I didn't know anything.
Was he married?
Yeah, he was married, but he said these e-commerce guys, they know everything now. Where the customer is buying from, what kind of his choice, what are the things he is confused on, and he has a family of 4, looking at the buying pattern. So they are sitting on a gold mine of data, right? I would like to ask Rajesh, how much you know your customers vis-a-vis e-commerce guys?
See, we are playing in a very niche market, so of course one can never claim that he knows the customer sufficient enough,
Right.
because you don't want to intrude upon the privacy also after a certain point of time.
Right.
But being in a niche market, I think we know the customer profile, what they want as per us,
Right.
of course. The
But you
customer
only
could have a
know
different
once
eye.
they swipe and once they
Yes.
buy, and once
No,
they
we
bought.
do have a CRM program also which captures relevant data, and whatever the customer buys, we know what he is buying, and we can mine the data also.
Right.
So I don't think that is enough. I'm definitely not suggesting it is enough. At the same time, I'm also against the other extreme of e-com. E-com again. So please don't take me wrong. I'm saying e-com is a wonderful channel.
Right.
I'm never saying that it's not a good channel.
Right.
At the same time, I'm against some of the e-com strategies. One is the discount. The second is dropping the cookies and following you everywhere. You don't want them to get into your privacy every time. You don't want them to know that what I'm
But
eating.
Isn't it a marketing tool? Isn't
Is
it a marketing
it a good
strategy?
marketing tool? Don't you want some privacy at some point of time? Now you know that once you're on web, and if you're gone to one website,
Right.
for your entire life you're stuck to them. They will continue to follow you wherever you go. They will continue to show you their advertisements or the product that you have searched for wherever you go. You don't want to see that again after a certain point of time.
Right.
What I am saying, e-com is definitely a wonderful channel. It has a lot of data. They can mine data, but they
It
should
has
also
opened
control.
the whole country to you, right? You cannot service 20,000 pin codes, but e-commerce can.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So again, I'm again repeating, e-com is a wonderful channel.
Right.
I'm definitely not suggesting it's not a good channel.
Right.
But what I'm saying is
brick
they-
and mortar is better, no?
No, I'm not suggesting that either. I'm definitely not suggesting that either. I'm saying both of them will coexist.
We should give e-commerce also a chance. Brick and mortar is saying we are better.
No,
what you
definitely
should
not.
do?
Definitely
Ask
not.
a fundamental question.
Okay.
Why do we shop? We are that's some ladies in this mall. Do you shop because you don't have clothes, or you want? We shop not just for the necessity, of the need based. It's not need based. No. So
It's a pleasurable exercise. End of the
so
day.
how can you have a pleasurable exercise in front of a screen?
Why do you ask the ladies only?
Because
Men are impulsive buyers. They don't.
But we just talked about how e-commerce is changing the buying behaviors, buying habits. A lot of things are forcing us to do so. Our infrastructure, our traffic, our parking, and also
once you have shopped, what will you do? You will wear and come to the mall.
Right.
Once you have shopped online, where will you go? You have to showcase that apparel. You will go somewhere, and where the space is in the city. The first choice comes as a mall.
Right.
So I think we will survive.
Okay, survive definitely, but we were talking about how buying behaviors were changing, and e-commerce is in a way forcing many people to change. for example, we can just do a poll here. When you go to a store, like, Venue store or somewhere, you have a form like, loyalty customer, please fill in this form, like, people are very like, no, we don't want to fill in. Online, people do it like, all the time. We can ask the audience, how many of you are comfortable if you go to Venues or like, Rajesh's store, if they come up with a form and like, you fill it up, you fill your personal information. If you could just raise your hands.
Yeah, will you
What about online? How many of you give your personal details online?
more people will do online.
Right. So there you go. Changing the way.
Most of them are now below 40, no?
Yeah, below 40. That's the market, right? You would be targeting.
I think effectively what's happened is the speed of change in terms of technology has brought in a lot of data.
Right.
And today, that smartphone that each of us in this room would be carrying has more data about you than what a marketer or retailer knows what to do with. Absolutely. There is so much data in there already, and that's before even you've gone online. Just because of the number of websites you go into, because of the sites that you are actually spending more time on, and so on and so forth. So the likes of Google probably know more about you than you yourself do. And I think that's a reality. And that's a bank of data which everyone will use,
Right.
are using more and more. I think in this country, data privacy, Rajesh referred to, I think it's still fairly relaxed compared to the West, where it is much more stringent. And I'll give you a simple example. You go to most stores or anywhere, you give your mobile number. Basically what you're saying is that you are opening up for people to call you at any time of the day or night. Earlier, how often would you give your landline number to people? Whereas today, you don't blink an eyelid. You go into a complex, and at the security, you have to write your mobile number. And yeah, and that's where the companies have got smarter, because now they send you the OTP before you can use it.
And the other thing I wanted to ask, Rajat can take this. Most of the Indian brick and mortar retailers, when they started doing e-commerce, none of them have succeeded. Like as we know, the biggest retailer, Future Group's FutureBazaar.com, is reduced to a coupon site right now for its own, not for others, but for its own formats. Similarly, Shopper Stop, how much they make out of e-commerce, like, if these are the biggest we're talking about, like, so there's people talk about mindset. You need a mindset change when you go for online. For example, like, Aditya Birla, when they were starting Trend in or eBay, first thing they said, like, you don't need to stick to our basics, like, you don't need to stick to our tradition. You go to Bangalore and set up as a separate technology company, as Kunal Bell or Sudhanshu would say, like, So how much mindset you need? Because, like, the reason there's no synergy between offline and online. I live in Noida. If I order something from Shopper Stop online, like, so ideally the Shopper Stop in Noida should be servicing me. But the store manager would say, like, oh, I need this jacket to display. What am I going to get? The online guys are going to get the incentives. What am I going to get? So there's clearly no synergy. How do you change this mindset, Rajat? What do you advise your clients on?
So I think what Yogesh said was good, was a very valid point, that e-commerce is for brick and mortar guys is a way of enhancing the experience.
Right.
You don't want them to stop coming to your stores. So I think this whole point that you're talking about, I think that's the point that Microsoft Dynamics guys were talking about, making it seamless. Actually, the main way of doing it should be to sweat your local assets more. If I'm ordering a Marks and Spencer jacket living in South Delhi, it should hopefully come to me from South X or there, not from Bombay. So that's where you cut down your delivery cost, effectively. And that's the part where the whole thing is not totally synced as yet. It's getting there. But I think the point here also is that e-commerce is the data that they have, the e-commerce websites and on brick and mortar as well, is helping with predictive selling, which is very important. If I bought a jacket, I don't need to be told I need to buy another jacket, but I need a tie or a shirt with it. This is where the predictive modeling can help. They can help you understand. So if I've already bought a jacket from a Marks and Spencer, so next time I go in, somewhere in the data they should say that, okay, this guy's bought it before, let me offer him a collect, but that level of seamless data part needs to happen, which will all be connectivity down the line. I
So,
guess.
what do you advise your brick and mortar retailers when they go omni-channel or online?
My advice to brick and mortar channel is that they have to obviously be able to supply product to places where they don't have brick and mortar stores.
Right.
But the objective has to be that the experience is seamless. But at the same time, I don't want to deter people from coming to stores where I have the stores as well. So the shop experience. So maybe a slightly different assortment of products sometimes, maybe some or different collections. While you keep your premium collection in store first for the first 3 months, then put it online so that at least you get that traction. Things like that, differentiating, offering slightly different services, and with the still the main point of the overall experience of shopping.
To drive the footfall to your store or mall. That's exactly one mall in Bombay is doing. Like, they have an e-commerce site where they give 10% discount. Discount is has to be there, but the condition is you must come to the mall and collect it from there. What do you think? Like, what kind of strategy you're working on? You would have different ones to drive footfalls to your mall.
So I mean, we started some initiatives, mostly failed, but some worked.
What are the things that failed? Even that would be interesting.
I wanted to avoid that, but anyway.
Okay.
I'll give you one example. For the styling services, we started this concept of styling services that wherever
Styling, right, yeah.
styling, where you are confused now, you want to know which color will suit you, which size will suit you, which checks will suit you. I mean, to help a woman or man shop. People want advice, but they don't want to pay for it, firstly. And then, especially in case of women, they don't want their husbands to be, taking advice from another woman. So they never approved. Thirdly, we were seen as a partial of promoting some brands. For example, if we are taking a customer to Mango, for example, that okay, you will get something here. So the promote will say why you are not diverting customers to the other brand. So we have to play neutral platform. So this service didn't work. Though it worked in gifting, for example, when you enter the mall and you are confused, you want to pick up some gifts for a price range, you just tell us, we have a person who knows whole mall, so she will help you to go straight to the store and give you 5-6 options that okay, you can buy this. So this service is required, but it is not commercially viable.
Okay.
Second, we started with hands-free shopping, that if you have bags, so somebody will carry your bags at a very nominal cost or drop that into your car. And we started at a small level just to experiment, and it worked very well. So now we have stretched it a little further. Why to drop it at your car? So we'll drop your home. So we have started a delivery service that if you are coming to shop, then you don't have to carry your bags to your home. You just tell us and we will take the bags and drop your home. So this is reaching their home in maybe 1/10 of what the
Is it a leap out of the e-commerce guys?
Yeah, because I mean, no, if customer is wanting that service,
Right.
that we should deliver home, so we will deliver home, and
Right.
the costs are very, very negligible. I mean, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Deepak, you can tell me, like, you have been a hardcore brick and mortar retailer all your life. Now you are you are starting your own e-commerce venture. Is the grass greener on the other side?
The garden was wrong, right?
See, I think the grass is greener on the other side, which is the future, I would say. The future is the other side for me. And let's go back to the subject, and that will explain as to, First of all, yes, there will be a coexistence.
Right.
But the coexistence cannot be taken for granted.
At what expense? Like,
Yeah.
right.
So, if I speak from a little bit of numbers, and Rajesh would agree, he's also a number guy. What does a 10% drop in sales means to a brick and mortar retailer? End of life.
Right.
End of life, entire profits goes into it. So if you're saying, okay, we will exist, okay, let them take 20% share, 30% share. What the hell? You are dead if 20% of your sales goes away. Then what kind of coexistence you talking about? Your entire profits will go away if at all, if you are making any. So you cannot, it cannot be taken. There would be a coexistence. I'm not saying that there will be complete disruption.
But who will survive, right?
Who will survive and
Right.
how to survive? And if there are 10 things which needs to be done, which I think Rajat made a beautiful list of all, you cannot do all those 10 things. So what you need to pick is what are your strengths. You can fight on your strength. And believe me, both of them are different animals. They don't, because the nature of customer interface is different in brick and mortar and different in online. Your interface on internet with the customer is in different kind of a setting, where the customer is definitely spending more time and more of the mind space, quietly, peacefully. Whereas, you know, in a store kind of an environment, it's a different kind of a setting. You cannot beat an online retailer on tools like predictive selling. You
Right.
cannot beat them on technology.
So what are the strengths you can
I
play
think
on?
I would, if I have to pick from Rajat's list, I would say things like bring theater back to the, you know, that's your strength, the physical experience. Some of the things which, that's why he's a winner. Things which he is doing, gamify the entire experience. Gamify the entire experience. See, the customer would still want to come to a mall. I saw some of the things which the Microsoft guys showed today. Wonderful technologies, but the customer has to come to the store to experience those technology. The customer is going to be cut short at his house and not be allowed to go to the mall or the store. You can have a hardware station, you can do whatever, you can eliminate the need for a cash deal or whatever. It's not going to work.
Right. You made an interesting point, like, you know, if 10% sells down, you're finished,
You're
right?
done. You're
So
done.
that's exactly what happened during last Diwali, when the discounts were really aggressive. Hundreds of
And that's the
franchisee
point.
stores were closed. You guys would know better. And now I would like to ask brick and mortar retailers, Rajesh or Venu, whosoever can take. I just met
Russell,
once.
just one thing. So there's a lot of acquisitions which have been made on e-commerce, and I would like.
Okay, I'll give you one more chance. Like, and after this,
Sure. Yeah.
I just met a CEO of a e-commerce company, like one large e-commerce company. What he told me off the record that e-commerce company, top 5 e-commerce companies right now are spending anywhere between 50 million to 100 million per month on discounts, advertising, customer acquisition, on all those. So in this kind of scenario, like, you know, it's a make or break situation for you guys, like, you know, as Deepak has pointed out. How to survive, like, you know, what are the things?
You would like to take? Okay, so first of all, again I am repeating, it's not alternate to each other.
Right.
The 10% sale that we're talking about will go away, it will not go away because brick and mortar will have to join hands with e-tailers and e-com players will have to open brick and mortar also. The 10% that we're talking about is not going away anywhere. It's coming from a different channel.
Okay, so how much do you make from e-commerce? What percentage?
So currently in India, we don't have an e-com channel. We will be launching our website in January and then we will go, may join hands with the likes of Myntra, etc.
Okay.
But that's a different strategy. So if I talk about the worldwide scenario, if we talk about, let's say, China or some European countries, 10% of our total sales comes from e-com channel.
Right.
That 90% still comes from brick and mortar.
Okay.
Both of them coexist in a sense that both of them have to go hand in hand. We're not saying they're alternate to each other.
Right. When you
I'll go back to what I said right at the beginning. The customer is looking for a brand, and it's a question of where he gets it. And the experience that he gets in a mall or in a store is a kind of experience which there will be a certain set of customers who would always want that. At the same time, there'll be a different set of customers who are not as interested in spending time in the store, and they are the ones who use online. For the brand or for the retailer, it's about making sure your product's there for both, and you're able to get to the numbers that you're looking out for. So I think brands and retailers will use both. They'll use online and they will use the brick and mortar stores. And I think and both will coexist, as we've seen. I mean, in India, it's still early days, and obviously online's just come in, and because of the kind of money that's being burnt, there's a lot of talk about it. But at the same time, in the Western world where it has reached a much more a level of maturity, I think these channels coexist. And I think that's what will happen in this country as well.
Okay. Now the e-commerce has to make.
Just to add one thing, I think Sudhanshu made a point at that time that I don't know why investors are investing in this as we speak today. So I think if I go back to the era of 1995, when a lot of investors were investing in telecom at that time, especially the basic telecom or the new thing. One of the investors, I spoke to, very big investors, and I spoke to why you are investing in this venture. You don't know what will be the future. He says the problem is I don't know what the future is. I have loads of money from my limited partners. I don't know where to invest. If I don't invest and if it works, then I'll be answerable why I did not invest.
Is that the same scenario you're alluding to, e-commerce?
I don't know. So what I'm saying is there is a great possibility. Because every model has to be sustainable on a long-term basis.
So this is what we hear, like, kab tak ye chalega kind of, like,
Absolutely. In fact, even if we speak to some top guys in e-com platform itself.
even if it goes for 1-2 years, things are difficult for brick and mortar, right? Because they're cannibalizing your sales.
No, they're not difficult. As I said, as we keep repeating that brick and mortar will have to join e-com also, not
Right.
necessarily through discount.
Okay.
The discount, if I start offering in my brick and mortar, there'll be long queues outside there also.
Right.
How many times have you been able to find a parking on a weekend during end of season sale in a brick and mortar store? I think it's still difficult because you offer discount, the malls are choked at that time, not even the parking, the inside also, and I'm sure Yogesh would agree to that.
Luckily, yes.
Sudhanshu?
Okay, so please bear with me. I'll probably take 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
So this discussion reminds me of about 4 years ago when I was working with Flipkart, and I had started the computers, the laptops and accessories category in Flipkart, right? That's the time when we used to go to Nehru Place, buy laptops from Nehru Place retailers, keep them in our warehouse and then sell, right? And simultaneously we were trying to convince the brands, right, the Dell, HPs of the world, that we should work with you guys, and I mean there's no competition. Don't think of us as people who are eating away your channel, right? We are just another channel for you, right? We are going to be able to deliver to places where your current channel is not able to reach to, right? And yes, it took some time. It took a lot of persuasion, but eventually now, for example, you know that all these brands pretty much work with e-commerce, right? I think there is a lack of general understanding of how e-commerce is evolving, which creates that fear or that sort of animosity against e-commerce, right? And I've worked in big companies earlier. I used to work with PepsiCo, and I've been with startups for the last 4 or 5 years. And my experience is that large companies, pretty much a lot of people who are here in this room, find it difficult to understand and adopt to how the market is evolving, right? So I have a pro tip for everybody who is trying to find a CTO, that don't look for a guy who has experience of brick and mortar. You'll never find one. When I was in Flipkart, I was hired from alcohol. I used to work in Diageo, right? So they made a conscious decision that they will not hire from brick and mortar, because it will be then very difficult to unlearn and learn again.
The mindset?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You want to, and see, technology is here to stay, right? Technology is here to solve problems. You have a problem of figuring out parking slots, right? I would recommend that don't try to do it in-house. There are a lot of startups out there, right? There is abundance of technology talent out there. Find a startup who you think will be able to solve it for you, and most likely they are the people who will be able to solve it for you, right? Now coming on to how e-commerce is evolving, and this is very important for everybody to understand, right? I mean, e-commerce is no more a retailer inventory-led, discount-led platform. It's not that, right? It has also gone through its own challenges, right? And I'm not saying that funding is drying up, but I'm saying it's now harder to get funding, right? It's harder to get money. So e-commerce is in itself also trying to find.
So you think discounts are coming down?
So I'm not saying discounts are coming down. I'm saying people are now becoming more conscious about how they spend their money, right? And that's where they will also evolve, and they are already evolving, right? I mean, what was the need for a Flipkart to, for example, suddenly go into a marketplace model, for example, right? Because you can't carry everything on your own, right? And you can't keep discounting. So let me just put that.
So the partnership they are talking about, that's exactly what happened 5 years ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, when it was between mall developers and retailers.
High street versus.
No, it was mall developers and retailers. Mall retailers would always, mall developers would always try to squeeze money out of retailers.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
First the rent was 200, next time 300, right? Because then the slowdown taught them, retailers are not someone to squeeze money out of, they are our partners. They started looking them as partners. Things have changed, evolved in Indian brick and mortar retail. So do you think things will change between offline and online? Will this be seen as partnerships rather than us and them?
I strongly believe in partnerships, and this because all of our retailers are selling online, no, in a way. So all, for example, Mango is selling online, H&M is planning to do. So all the brands in the mall are trying to sell online. So we have no choice than to join hands, basically.
Right.
Because if we say, okay, if you have online portal, will not give you space, then the mall will be half empty, no?
Right. As much when you would like Flipkart or Myntra also needs you, right? So have they started seeing you as partners now to an extent?
I mean, clearly, I think it is a partnership. And I mean, earlier it was mentioned, all the technology companies are, I mean, they're saying they are technology companies.
Right.
All the e-commerce companies have stated on record, including Sudhanshu a few minutes back, they are a technology company. And they are creating the platform. And for me, they are creating a channel which the brands or the retailers use to get to the customer.
Right.
So I think there is, and that's where the partnership will come in. What they will offer is the environment by which the customer can get the best offer in terms of whether they are looking for a red shirt or whether they are looking for the entire outfit, or they're looking for something which they never used to get. But because of online today, they're able to get it from, let's say, a remote place in Sikkim. They're still able to procure it today. So I think that's what is being offered. A Myntra today caters to 19,000 pin codes. Now that's something which a brick and mortar retailer would take decades to get to. But
there's one very fine difference. A lot of people feel that mall is a real estate project. Mall is not a real estate project. I mean, you need real estate expertise, but then mall development is separate and mall management is a separate topic. That's why if you see a lot of big mall real estate players, they couldn't do a good mall because this is a different business. So today the same talk is happening that e-commerce players are technology partners. No, if they are only technology partner, then this will collapse because as big developers couldn't make a good mall, they have to understand, I mean, for example, from mall perspective, it is more tilted towards the hospitality industry than the real estate industry. You know, it's like more driven towards customer-centric hotel industry than the real estate. Similarly, if they are only technology partner, they will have to correct themselves in some time because if they are only providing technology, then retail will not happen. Retail is much more knowing the consumer.
So this is where I was actually just going to start about talking about how e-commerce is evolving today, right? So e-commerce is no more that inventory-led discounter, right? E-commerce today is actually going offline, not in terms of opening their own shops, but in terms of working with the brands and with the stores. So I'll give you an example of how many of your problems an e-commerce company can solve today, right? So you want to know how many people are walking into your mall in and out, right? And you probably want to be able to direct them to a particular promotion or a store. How e-commerce companies, and for example, how Paytm is evolving today, where we are actively tying up with offline stores. We don't carry inventory anyways, right? I would want to tie up with you and have your geolocation as well, right?
Yeah.
People have a habit of checking into Facebook, right? If people know that when I walk into a mall, I can open the Paytm app, for example, right? And see all the stores and all the offers that are there, you will also instantly know how many people have walked in and what's his profile, right? You want to know where to open your next store, right? E-commerce has like abundance of data about where are people shopping from, right? What kind of people do you need to target? What are their clusters, right? You could get all that data as well, correct? So there's a lot of synergies which exist, right? Which need to be tapped, right? See, e-commerce. So what a technology company brings to the table, right, is the power of let's say traffic, which is mobile as well. I'm not even getting into transactions, right? I mean, a guy who walks into a mall and opens the Paytm app to see what all offers are there does not need to transact on Paytm, right? What we need is a better working relationship with the brands, with the offline retailers, with the mall owners as well, where we can integrate what you have, right, your catalog, your offers, with the traffic that I have.
Yeah, to touch the customer digitally, no?
Correct, absolutely. And one last thing, right? So it's not.
Sudhanshu, we don't have.
I'm just wrapping up about discounting because that's the most talked about topic here, right? Yes, as I already mentioned earlier, discounting is not going to stop immediately, but all e-commerce companies and all players are are trying to be more profitable, and it is going to evolve, right? But once this new model comes into play, where offline retailers are working with online retailers, we would want, and we have already seen that a lot of offline retailers push offers, right? I walk into Select City Walk, a store in Select City Walk will be able to push me a discount of, let's say, 10%, which is like a loyalty program as well, right? He spoke about a lot of benefits, or a lot of advantages or competitive differences these guys can build in. A lot of these can be done through e-commerce, right? And what you need to find is the right partner who has that sort of an outlook, not a guy who's maybe an inventory-led retailer.
Right partner is the issue. Now we have 30 problems and we have 30 partners.
So, I mean, maybe we can talk offline and I can probably walk you through those.
Sure. We have already